What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some more Tottenham content for you guys. And obviously we've been focusing very heavily on the World Cup since it did come about, and we've earmarked some sort of players for you that we have scouted and we've been quite impressed with in this World Cup. We've looked at goalkeepers, defenders, wing backs, midfielders and attacking midfielders slash wingers. So we've got quite a lot of players that we have been impressed with in this World Cup. So let's get straight through them and see. And they all are kind of targets that we can acquire, whether it be in January or the summer. So we've thought they're quite realistic targets. And starting off with the goalkeeper, the first one we've gone for is Livakovic of Croatia. Obviously, he's been a hero for them in penalty shootouts. He's performed really well as well. Obviously, Croatia's still in it in the semi-finals and could be very well in for their second World Cup final in a row. But what have you made out of Livakovic?
Yeah, I think he's been outstanding. I think he's been, not only has he been great at the penalty shootouts in the two that he's been in, he's been a standout in both of those. But I actually think coming for crosses, he's been exceptional. I think his shot stopping has been pretty decent as well. And I was watching a clip from a few years ago. It's him speaking to Luka Modric it was, I think, some behind the scenes documentary a few years ago, and he was talking to Modric and he was saying how like he's a bit afraid to like make mistakes, and as a goalkeeper, if you make a mistake, it could be costly. And Luka said, I think that's your biggest problem. Your biggest problem is that you are too scared to make mistakes. Every player makes mistakes. You need to let go of that fear, and he seems to have done that of recent times. He's clearly now cemented himself as Croatia's number one. Look, his contract's up in 18 months time as well, playing for Dynamo Zagreb, so definitely a 27 years of age as well, decent age, and he's definitely a keeper that I think has got a big move in him, or a move to a club in a bigger league than the Croatian league. Having said that, he has to. It'll be interesting to see how he performs in another league, because playing the Croatian league is difficult to judge. But he's had a brilliant World Cup.
Yeah, and it's interesting that David Ornstein has been talking about him today, actually, or in the last couple of days, and he says that Manchester United actually passed up the chance to sign him in the summer and ended up going for Dubravka instead. So maybe it could be a good option for us. Would you be accepting of him as Hugo's successor?
I don't know. I mean, it's. I think we can aim higher, to be honest, but I definitely wouldn't mind him with Hugo, with a view of a bit like we do with Golini a bit. Maybe play him a bit more than we played Golini, but maybe have him there just to see how he does, and if we don't fancy him, maybe get him on loan deal or something for a year with a view of like paying money out, something like that.
All right, let's move on to our second goalkeeper, who we have liked the look at so far this World Cup, and it's Bono, the Moroccan keeper. I mean, he is getting on a little bit, 31 years of age, but he's one that I didn't really know of coming into this tournament, but he's one that's actually really impressed me in like the whole Moroccan team have, to be honest.
Yeah, and he obviously plays for Sevilla, so at 30, and he's apparently pretty good for them as well. Looking at statistics, he's pretty decent statistically when it comes to his post-shot XG, the amount of saves he makes is up there with some of the best in Spain. He's had a fantastic World Cup, again, from I think from the penalty. Did he have the penalty shootout, Bono? Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Morocco?
Or did he not?
Yeah, they beat who did they beat in the penalties? It was the round before Portugal. Who did they play?
Oh, Spain. Yeah, he was brilliant in that shootout. Yeah, he saved all three. He saved three, didn't he?
Yeah.
They won 3-0 in that shootout. He's been fantastic. He's been great for Morocco as well. And I think they've only conceded one goal the whole tournament, and that was an own goal as well. So what a tournament he's had. And at 31, he's definitely one who maybe you should look at, but it's whether we want a younger goalkeeper or not. Might deter us from going for him, but if we're looking for like a short-term option because we can't find a good long-term replacement, I mean, he could be a good option.
Who do you prefer out of the two, Livakovic or Bono?
I think I've been more impressed with Bono, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I think even though he's a bit older, I think he's looked a bit better than Livakovic, and he's more tested in a better league than Livakovic.
Yeah, that's definitely true in terms of his club football. But I think in terms of this World Cup, I think I might have been more impressed with Livakovic, you know. I like the look at both of them, but also the age of Bono does put me off a little bit, being 31 years of age, and Livakovic at 27 seems like a really good fit for me. But we'll move on from the goalkeepers. Those are the two goalkeepers we have looked at. Let me know in the comment section below, though, if you have thought of any other goalkeepers during this World Cup have caught your eye. In terms of the defenders, the first one we're going to be looking at is Piero Hincapié of Ecuador. Obviously, they did go out in the first round, but he's been really impressive, aggressive defender. Looks a bit still a bit raw to me, but he's definitely one that can maybe fit the mould in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, look, he's 20 years of age, isn't he? And he's clearly, I thought, in the playing for Ecuador, was really solid at the back. I thought he had a good composure about him as well. He was the one leading the line in the back line for Ecuador as well. And I was quietly impressed with him. He's left-footed. He can play left back and centre back, so he could be a perfect fit for that left centre back role. He was heavily linked with us in the summer with a £40 million move, but he actually was really impressive for Ecuador, and they were pretty solid defensively as well. I think he does have a bit of developing to do, I think a bit physically as well. But I think when it comes to his composure on the ball and his defensive ability, I thought he was really, really strong. And he was a big reason why they were really solid defensively in this tournament, Ecuador. He was the shining light in their back line for me.
Yeah, look, I do like him, but there have been maybe other defenders who I've liked more in this World Cup. I think that when I was looking at Hincapié, I think he was strong, but like very raw talent, and I think he needs a lot of coaching maybe to come into the Premier League and stuff like that. Well, obviously with Antonio Conte, who's better to do that. But look, he's a good player, definitely one for the future. But
I mean, for his age, I thought he was really impressive.
I'm just not sure if he comes straight in to the team and makes a difference. I'm not sure about that.
I think he does make a difference, but whether he's definitely going to need some years to get into his best years. 100%. He's only 20 for a centre back. That's very young. But I was really impressed with him.
All right, let's move on, and a bit of outside the box one. This one is Harry Souttar of Australia and Stoke. I mean, this is one I was really impressed with, especially in the game against Argentina, the way he dealt with Messi, the way he was dealing with some of Argentina's finest attackers throughout the game. Ball playing ability as well, I thought was sensational. And he's one that really opened my eyes, Harry Souttar.
I mean, he's a giant. He's an absolute giant. What is he? He's 6'5", 6'6". He is so tall. And for an Australia team, which, let's be honest, lacked a lot of quality, the fact that they got to the round of 16 was because of their defensive ability. And he was just heading everything away. They kept 2 clean sheets after getting battered by France. No one expected them to keep 2 clean sheets after that performance. And he was sensational throughout the tournament. And He's 24 years of age, playing in the Championship. So clearly, we can get scouts to him fairly easily to have a really good look at him. But he was really, really solid for Australia, and actually was able to have some good switches of play as well, good long passes. So definitely one to maybe keep an eye on. But then again, I just worry if we sign him, it would just be another Joe Rodon. He would come in and we wouldn't play him a lot. Like, I don't know if we'd have the confidence to put him straight in, but he definitely looked like an underrated option.
Yeah, how old is he?
24.
24, so a really good age. Playing at Stoke, so he's used to English football. Obviously, he's not the Premier League, but I definitely think that we should be having a closer look at him because I was so impressed with him during the World Cup. But another one who we've been really impressed with is Pavlovic of Serbia, who's been dubbed inside Serbia as the next Nemanja Vidic. Not a bad name to be drawing comparisons to. He's another one who's really, really impressed me during this World Cup. Aerial ability, he's also a absolute man mountain. His defensive ability was second to none. Really aggressive, liked to get up the pitch as well. So again, he's one that I really liked.
And he played on the left side of a back three, left-footed. He did get a goal in, I can't remember which game it was. I think it was their second game. In the Cameroon game, he scored from a corner as well. He's really, really tall. Threat from set pieces. I did worry a bit potentially about a lack of pace, but in a back three, he seemed fairly comfortable. And I was, again, he's young. He's 21 years of age. He does play for... he plays for Red Bull Salzburg. Mm-hmm. So, again, definitely an option we would probably be able to obtain if we went serious for him. But he was quite impressive at this World Cup for Serbia, albeit their defence overall wasn't that impressive. They did concede a lot of goals, but I think him personally had a pretty good World Cup, and I think he put himself on the map.
Yeah, he definitely did. And Transfer Market got him as a market value of 20 million, where only a year ago, or less than a year ago, to be honest, was his market value was 8 million. So you can see his stock is rising. Only recently got into the Serbia team as well, where this is a World Cup. I think he actually made his debut for Serbia, which is crazy. But look, I think he's a really good player. I think he's one that we should be looking at, and I think he's definitely gettable for us in this January transfer window, or maybe it be in the summer window. But the last defender that we've got for you is one that we've spoken about quite a bit on this channel, in Kim Min-jae. He was definitely that kind of that presence at the back for South Korea. I think when he wasn't playing, they did miss him quite a bit, and he proved to everyone in this World Cup, really, and not only just in this World Cup, but in this season for Napoli, he proved all the doubters wrong, because a lot of people were saying, oh, can he really do it? He's coming from the Chinese league. How can we trust someone like that? And he's been one of the best defenders in Serie A, and he was brilliant at the World Cup as well.
Yeah, he was great. He was really, really great for South Korea, I have to say. His ability as well, those low driven passes out to the wing backs, was one of the shining lights of the World Cup for him as well. And I think he's been proving recently that playing at a high level was no problem for him. And I think this is one now we can probably agree we've missed out on, because I think playing for Napoli, I don't think he's going to be leaving there in the near future. Maybe it's one down the line a bit, which we can maybe get for a decent fee. They'll probably demand a decent fee, but I thought he was really good.
He's got a release clause, doesn't he?
Of how much?
Of like 45 million?
Yeah, maybe it's worth having a go. That's not terrible, I guess. 45 million release clause, if that's true. But he's one who I've been really, really impressed with in the league, and this World Cup he really proved to everyone that he can perform on the world stage as well. And he's a big unit as well at the back line of it. He's a bit of a beast. He's really big threat from set pieces, and he's very comfortable on the ball. So I was really impressed with him.
Yeah, I was. So in terms of these four defenders, Pavlovic, Hincapié, Sutar and Kim Min-jae, name your 1 to 4. 1 being the one who you want the most and 4 the least.
Kim Min-jae first, Hincapié second, Pavlovic third, and Sutar fourth.
See, I'd have the same order as you. I'll just swap Hincapié and Pavlovic around. I was just so impressed with Pavlovic. I really was. And, you know, for them thinking about him being the next Nemanja Vidic, I just feel like if we were to miss out on him, he's another one that we'd miss out on, like we did on Kim Min-jae, to be honest. But I'll take all 4 of them, to be honest. I'll take any 4 of them through the window at Spurs. So that is the defenders. In terms of wing backs, first one we're going to look at is Joseph Juranovic, obviously with Croatia still there. I mean, he's been one of their shining lights at right back. He's been up and down that pitch. He's like a Duracell bunny. He's good going forward, really good defensively, and he's one as well at Celtic, so he's gettable. Apparently they've already signed his replacement, so they're expecting him to go out the door. So actually in January he could be one that could be leaving, and I think he's one that we should definitely be looking at.
Yeah, he's been super impressive for Croatia. His ability on the right-hand side defensively, I think, is what he's really shone. I think that that performance against Brazil, where he literally had Vinicius Jr. and well, not so much Neymar, but Neymar when he was out on the left, he pretty much had them in their pocket, and he was able to be a threat going the other way as well. Was super, super impressive, and his ability and stamina to keep going for 90 minutes was really good. The only thing I would say is in the final third, haven't seen too much of his ability to get really good crosses in the box, or even get shots on goal, or arrive at the back post and things like that, which we require as wing back, but he was playing fullback, not wing back. So maybe if you do put him as wing back, that is something he can do. I think technical ability, and ability to dominate that right-hand side. He had shown that in that one game against Brazil, and I think he had a very solid tournament throughout for Croatia. But I do have question marks whether he has the attacking ability that we require for our wing-backs. But if that's something that can be coached into him, then definitely, I mean, it could get a good deal for him. It could be a fairly cheap price, and I think that he's had an absolutely fantastic World Cup. So I think he's one that maybe has developed over this World Cup as a potential option.
27 years of age. €6.5 million market value on Transfer Market. At that price, surely you have to be looking at this one seriously. And like, if you can bring in someone else alongside him, like a Pedro Porro or someone, bring both of them in and ship out Emerson and Doherty, you're talking about a completely new, revamped right-hand side, and it will look really good, wouldn't it?
Of course, they'll be 10 times better than what we have at the moment. I'd much rather those two options than the options we have now. But you do have to be wary about just being hoodwinked by some good performances in the World Cup. And I don't know how he performs on a consistent basis for Celtic, and if he's that good, because we've seen it before with players at World Cup, so you have some good games and you sign them and they're not as good. But for what I saw at the World Cup, I mean, he looks very, very solid. But in terms of profile, I still have my reservations whether he would really fit our system.
Yeah, which is fair enough. But the next guy should really fit our system down to a T, and Denzel Dumfries. Look, it's an interesting one with Dumfries, because in his club football, there seems to be something about him where the Inter fans don't really fancy him as much as maybe they should do, with the qualities and the ability that he does have. But on the world stage with the Netherlands, he shows time and time again how much of a good football player he is, and he's had a brilliant tournament once again. There was that one game, what was it, in the last 16 against USA, where he got 2 assists and a goal, completely won the game for them. And I'm so impressed every time I see him play, but I don't see him play week in, week out for Inter Milan, and that's where the reservations come.
Yeah, and also when it really came to it against Argentina, he was a bit anonymous, which was a big shame, because there was a lot of emphasis on him and how well he had been in the previous round, and playing in a back three system as well for Holland and for Inter Milan. He's used to that system and he gets forward really well. And we saw that in this tournament, and we've seen that in previous tournaments as well. But against Argentina, unfortunately, he didn't have a really good game, and he was really, I don't know whether it's fair to say he was found out, but he was anonymous when in their biggest game, which is something to consider. But he has had a brilliant tournament. He showed exactly what he can do in those other games, how well he can get forward, and that's what we need, because it's a lot of the time it is games against sides who sit deep and try to frustrate Tottenham where we can struggle, and I think he can really help us in those games. But in the big game against Argentina, he wasn't great. But I still think he's a massive upgrade on what we have at the moment. I think he's shown that already. I think his crossing ability is really, really good, and he also gets to those attacking positions at the back post when the opposite fullback goes forward. So I think he's one where I think we're clearly interested, and I think if we do have an opportunity to get him, and there aren't many other options on the market, I would go for him.
Yeah, I would as well, to be honest. But like, I'll definitely fancy probably a Pedro Porro a bit more than a Denzel Dumfries as it stands right now. The last wing back we've got to bring to you is on the other side, a left back, is Rafael Guerreiro of Portugal and Borussia Dortmund. His contract does end at the end of the season. It looks like he will be moving on from Borussia Dortmund, which is very interesting for us. With Perisic ageing, with Sessegnon not really coming on that well. We do have a Doji coming next season as well. Is a left back something that you would consider going for in the summer transfer window?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's our main priority, but I think whenever you have opportunities to upgrade, I think you got to take him. Rafael Guerreiro would definitely represent an upgrade, although for Dortmund, he's obviously had a very good career there. He's been there for a while now at Borussia Dortmund. I feel like in the last maybe a couple of years, he hasn't maybe been as good as he was previously. He obviously got the Portugal shirt because Nuno Mendes went off injured in the first game, and he was able to grab the opportunity. And he's always been a very good defender when it goes to going forward. That's definitely one of his strengths. He's really good. He takes free kicks as well. He's quite a very good cross of the ball. I think it's defensively where people have their reservations about him, but I think he's one of those who's been a very consistent left back for many, many years. Has never really played left wing back in a back through system, but I do think he would fit that profile very well. I don't have too many problems with that. So if we're able to get him, he's one that for sure I'd love him through the door.
Yeah, as a free transfer, can you really pass that up? Because I think as a free transfer, to play competition with Destiny Udogie there on that left-hand side, or even Ryan Sessegnon as well, I think it'll be such a great steal.
Free transfer, for someone of that experience and quality, yeah, it would be great move.
And it seems like a Conte move to me, like Rafael Guerreiro, to bring him in. Tried and tested in the Bundesliga for Dortmund for many years. Really good World Cup for Portugal. And let's say they do win it. They can't win it now. Yeah, they're out. But let's say, he does come here for free with that experience behind his belt. That really is a Conte signing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think Spurs, Levy will be licking his lips at a free transfer like that for sure.
All right, that's the wing backs. In terms of those three, where would you 1 to 3 on Juranovic, Dumfries, and Guerreiro? I know Guerreiro's a left, but it's I'm still asking you to put them 1 to 3.
I would want Dumfries first, then I would want Guerreiro, then Juranovic.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. Let's move on to the midfield. Another player who we've spoken about quite a bit on this channel is Sofiane Amrabat of Morocco. Not many people knew who he was when we were first linked with him last January, I think it was, and we ended up going for Rodrigo Bentancur instead. All Spurs fans were kind of shitting on the idea of bringing in Sofiane Amrabat, but I think that the majority of people have probably woken up to the fact that he is actually a really good player, seeing him at this World Cup, because he's been sensational. He's been one of the best midfielders at this World Cup, if not the best, literally. He's been that good in this Moroccan side that are through to the World Cup semi-final. He's been a central part to that. His break-up play is insane, the way he drives that team forward. And he's such a hard nut to crack as well for teams trying to drive through that Moroccan midfield. And have we missed a trick on him?
I wouldn't say we missed a trick, because we end up getting Bentancur and he's been sensational. So, sometimes you can say the grass is always greener, but he has been fantastic. And apparently he's really come good for Fiorentina as well. And if you remember, when we went for him, he was out the Fiorentina team at the time, and he wasn't getting picked. So that also led to a lot of fans saying, why are we getting a Fiorentina bench player? But he seemed to have earned his way back into that team. And now he's much sought after. They apparently Liverpool have been in contact with him now, and other teams are really circling around him. So people realise his quality. I think his ball keeping ability is brilliant. Defensively, I think he's been so solid, and he seems to be one of those players who very rarely gives the ball away. And in the centre, he's one of those very good press-resistant midfielders who hangs onto the ball really well and is able to open up space for others' teammates. He's very much like a Moussa Dembele light in a way, the way he plays. And I've been super impressed with how he's played for Morocco, and I don't think they've lost a midfield battle yet ever since in this tournament. And I think he's been one of the main reasons. So if there is an ability to get him in as one of our other midfielders, I think we should look at it very seriously. But I don't know whether that ship has sailed or not.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Next up is Azzedine Ounahi, who's Amrabat's midfield partner in that Morocco midfield, and he's one as well. Nobody knew who he was coming into this tournament. He's 22 years of age, plays for Angers out in France. He's got a market value on transfer market of only 3.5 million euros. Contract lasts till 2026, and literally never knew who this guy was coming into this World Cup, but since I've seen him play, the way this guy keeps the ball is insane. The way he moves up the pitch as well, I've really liked the look of him. But it goes back to what you said before, like, can we really just rely on a few World Cup performances to bring him through the door?
Yeah, maybe not, but you're not the only one who didn't know who he was and has been impressed. Luis Enrique, in the game after the game, they beat Spain on penalties. He said, this Ounahi guy, where has he come from? He's unbelievable. I've never heard of this guy before, but where has he come from? Because he's been a shining light, and I think he's a bit more penetrative than Amrabat. I feel like Amrabat doesn't get the ball forward as much as someone like Ounahi. Ounahi was actually more likely to play like through balls and actually get into the final third than Amrabat was. And he's still very young, 22 years of age, playing in the French league, but definitely attainable for a decent price. And I really believe he's put himself on the map this World Cup. He has been fantastic. He really has impressed a lot of the right people this World Cup, the way he's performing in that midfield three. Technically, he's really good. And I think what sets him apart potentially is his decision making on the ball. I think he makes really clever decisions. He seems to have really good awareness of of his surroundings and who's around him and where to play the right pass. And I've been super impressed with him this World Cup. And again, you're right. Can you make a judgment just on the World Cup to spend money on him? Maybe not, but I think maybe with good scouting, I think there's definitely one Tottenham should take some serious look at, because he could be a steal.
Yeah, 3.5 million. I mean, if you can get him for less than 10 million, you know, the risk, the reward definitely outweighs the risk, doesn't it?
Has to at that price, but his price is probably shot up after this World Cup.
Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. Now let's move on to the attacking midfielders, the last segment of the video for you. And Mohamed Kudus of Ghana. If you watched our watch-alongs for every Ghana game, we were literally drooling over Kudus every single game. I thought he was been absolutely brilliant, a shining light in that Ghanaian side. The way he goes forward, the way how direct he is on the half turns, how dangerous he is, and he can play on the wing, he can play attacking midfield through the middle. This guy is going to be hot property. I mean, he was before the World Cup anyway with the Champions League efforts that he had for Ajax this year, but I think that he's going to blow up after this World Cup. Yeah,
and he was playing in the midfield 3 as well, so really showing his versatility for Ghana, whereas for Ajax he plays in a front 3 and sometimes in the number 9 position and sometimes on the wing. So he really showed his ability to be versatile and play multiple positions. I really was impressed with his close control and ability to turn in tight spaces when marked by midfielders and other players. I think we struggle sometimes with that ability in the attacking third to when players are close to our attackers, to outmuscle them and turn on the ball and open up the space. I thought he was exceptional at that, and that was one really key area where I really believe he could help us. His versatility means he could be invaluable as well. The fact that he can play in the midfield 3 or in the front 3, which means we can pretty much change systems effortlessly while he's on the pitch. So for me, I think it's a no-brainer. That World Cup has convinced me. His performance against South Korea, those 2 goals. He's an aerial threat as well, big, tall lad. He scored a good header, and he has a striker instincts as well. And he has good decision-making in the midfield 3 when he's in the central areas. So his dribbling ability was strong. I think it's a no-brainer. I think he really convinced me of he's a serious player.
Agreed, completely agreed. I think this guy has got a big career and big future ahead of him. Next up, we're going to look at Canada's Tajon Buchanan. Plays for Club Brugge at the moment. Very young. I think he's about 23 years of age. He was a shining light in the Champions League this year for Club Brugge, deployed on both wings, right and left wing. During this World Cup, he was really impressive to me. One of Canada's best players, and he looked really dangerous every time attacking for them. He looked really direct. And even his crossing ability looked good to me, to be honest. He was in a Canada team playing in their first World Cup for many, many years. And I think he's one that could be gettable for a fairly, not so high fee.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was decent, Tajon Buchanan. He's clearly very fast. He's very raw. He's and very sharp and intense. I still feel like he's a bit too raw for his age at 23. I didn't think his shooting technique was particularly impressive. I did get one really good assist for Alphonso Davies in the game against Croatia when they lost 4-1. And I think obviously he's a very hard worker. He picks up a lot of fouls and tackles as well. But he clearly has that mentality about him. I've got a feeling he might be a better wing back than a winger for us.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Because I'm not sure whether he has the good enough technical ability to be like in our front 3 and to be a really good winger for us. I think as a winger he might be like a mid Premier League player, but as a wing back he might really suit our system.
His defensive tenacity was really good. And the way he kept closing down the opposition attackers and defending from the front and getting up and down the pitch is like a bit of a Duracell bunny. He had so much, like a bundle of energy, and his defensive work was actually the thing that impressed me most.
Yeah, which was good, and especially with his ability to take people on and his pace, I think wingback could be good for him. But first, whether he wants to play that role or suited to that role is another question. But definitely, it could be a role for him in the team if we were to pick him up. And he's versatile, can play on both wings. I just didn't think his finishing or shooting was particularly impressive. That's all.
I mean, did he even get in too many opportunities to shoot in this World Cup? I don't remember too many. I do remember him being out wide a lot and getting good crosses in the box, but I don't remember him too many times in central areas trying to get those shots off.
Against who's the first game? Belgium. He had a few opportunities and his finishing was pretty poor. And I think there's a few times he's had shots from outside the box and they just haven't been particularly good.
Fair enough, but you could say that for Canada, most of Canada's players during that game, and especially Alphonso Davies, Jonathan David, these kind of players as well, whose finishing boots weren't on.
We're talking
that
about
day.
Tottenham Buchanan though.
Yeah, I know, but when you're talking about Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David, you expect them to be really good finishers, but they weren't that day, and maybe it was the same for Tajon Buchanan. Who knows? But moving on, we're going to talk about Cody Gakpo of the Netherlands. Obviously, a really strong tournament from him. I think he got, 3 goals during the tournament. Really impressive stuff in a Dutch team where I wasn't really that impressed with them, even though they did go that far into the quarterfinals, losing to Argentina on penalties. He didn't really turn up that day, though, against Argentina. He was a bit anonymous, but he's definitely a player that we should be looking at, bagging in goals for fun in the Dutch league with PSV. He had very heavy interest in him from the Premier League last summer. Nothing really materialised, but I think Man United looking at him, I think we've been rumoured to look at him, Leeds as well. What do you think of Cody Gakpo?
I thought... It's an interesting one with Gakpo because when given space to play in, and when his ability to attack that space and play in it, he was clearly devastating. His finishing was brilliant. He had that shot from outside the box, which he scored in the Netherlands second game, which was absolutely fantastic. I thought he was really hard to stop in those situations, but as soon as the space got clogged up for him, he struggled. I thought in that game against Argentina, he really struggled against their backline. He got absolutely no joy whatsoever against the Argentina backline, and he had lots of opportunities to do it as well. And I thought playing in the number 10 role in the central areas in that game hampered him as soon as there was restrictive space, and that's maybe something to worry about because we know historically in the Dutch league we've seen players with lots of space do really well, and then they come into the Premier League where they get less time on the ball and less space to play in, and they really struggle. So that's not saying he's a bad player or anything like that, but it's just something to consider. Clearly, technically, he's top quality. I do think if he was to come to the Premier League, there would be an adjustment period, in my opinion, but clearly he's one player who I think, with his ability and his potential, I think he could potentially be a star. But I think he would need to be playing consistently in those tight spaces and more fit and against more physical players. And once that adjustment period is over, he's going to be a really good player. But right now, it seems as though he thrives when the conditions are right for him. But sometimes he can be well shackled when he comes up against physical players who restrict the space for him.
Yeah. I think that's pretty spot on, to be honest. But next up is Kangin Lee Kangin from South Korea, and he plays for
Mallorca.
Valencia or Mallorca? Mallorca, yeah. He was at Valencia before that, plays for Mallorca. Again, he didn't start off with a starting role here at the World Cup for South Korea, kind of pushed his way in, and I thought he was really impressive every time he came off the bench and when he started. For Valencia, he's got 14 appearances this year with 2 goals, 3 assists. He's been deployed in so many different positions, left wing, right wing, attacking midfielder, second striker, centre forward. So very versatile, and he's got kind of attacking returns in every single position he's played this season as well, which is fairly impressive. I think he's more one for the future, being 21 years old, and I think he would probably take a bedding in period in the Premier League as well. But I think he's one that we should definitely be looking at for the future.
Yeah, I really like the look of him for South Korea, to be fair. I thought in his cameo appearances, he really made a difference, especially in the game against Ghana. I really thought he came on and changed the game. And as soon as he came on, they were finally getting some good delivery in the box for Cho to get on the end of. And he was actually providing some real good quality service. His set pieces were strong as well. He had really good left-footed deliveries from corners and from free kicks. And I thought his ability to find good runners and find good quality deliveries from central areas or something really impressive. But why was he not starting every week? Maybe it's because he's young, and maybe because he's got a bit of developing to do. But I was really impressed with his cameo appearances. But obviously I don't know how he does for Mallorca, but Kangin Lee definitely impressed in the World Cup in his substitute appearances.
Yeah, and it's also a weird one why Valencia just willy-nilly let him go as well to Mallorca. without like questions asked. So there are questions about Kangin Lee, but from what I've seen from him, he's been brilliant, and he's been kind of earmarked as the next big thing to come out of South Korea as well. So always good to get in early with that one. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Otavio from Portugal, 27 years of age, plays in Porto. This year for Porto, he's been deployed as a right winger or a left winger. For Portugal this year, he was more in the central role in a midfield three. And I really like the look of him, very creative, hard to get the ball off in that middle of the park. He has had 255 appearances for Porto, 25 goals and 68 assists, which is fairly impressive in terms of the assists. But 27 years of age, would you still go for him? I know it's a good age, but should we be looking at maybe a younger profile?
I mean, for that kind of age, you have to be looking at a ready-made star. Is he that? I mean, I do think he's a brilliant player, and I think it's interesting the role that Portugal used him, because I did think he was actually really good in that central midfield role, linking up with Bernardo Silva really well, and I think he was able to create some good quality chances from those right half spaces. I don't really believe in terms of I think in a winger in our system it actually could work, because we play them quite centrally. I don't think a winger in general, if they keep him wide and he has to take people on a regular basis, I don't think that would work. But I think potentially he could work in our system, and he's very versatile, and obviously he kills it in the Portuguese league, and I've been impressed with him whenever I do watch Porto. I think he's one of their best players, so I do like Otavio. But I think he's going to cost big money, and whether we want to whether we think he's good enough to justify it, and whether, I mean, where would we sign him for? Kulu's understudy to be a midfield three? It's a question we need to ask. I don't know if
Kulu's understudy.
So whether I'd rather someone like Kudus than him then, if we're doing that, because I think he's more suited to that. But I do like Otavio, and obviously someone with his quality who starts for Portugal as well would be most welcome at Tottenham.
In terms of Kudus, Buchanan, Gakpo, Kangin Lee and Otavio, what is your 1 to 5?
Kudus number 1, Gakpo 2, Otavio 3, Buchanan 4, Kangin Lee 5.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because what you were saying about Gakpo and if he can come into the Premier League and do it, I have reservations about that as well. And I think I might put Otavio before Cody Gakpo, even though I think Cody Gakpo is a top player. I just do have that reservations against him, and I did think, like, in a couple of games from the Netherlands he did go a bit missing, whereas Otavio was like central to everything Portugal were doing in this World Cup, and I thought he was brilliant. So in terms of what I've seen in this World Cup, I'd go for Kudus, Otavio, Gakpo, Buchanan and Lee.
I think when it comes to Otavio versus Gakpo, I'd say that Otavio's a better player right now than Gakpo, but I feel like Gakpo has a higher ceiling and more potential than Otavio.
Yeah, that's fair enough, especially judging by their ages. So, look, those are the players that we have earmarked from this World Cup. Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on all these players, and also if we have missed anyone out, someone that you've had a look at this World Cup, let us know in the comment section below. But thank you everyone for watching us today. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always, come on you Spurs.